You know that moment? When you hand someone an envelope, and you can see their face shift from confusion to shock to absolute horror? That's exactly what I watched happen on Christmas morning when my parents opened the only gift I brought them. No wrapping paper, no bow. Just a single piece of paper in a plain white envelope. A mortgage payment receipt. Stamped, paid in full. My mother's hands started shaking. My father went pale, and my golden child brother, he just sat there, frozen, champagne glass halfway to his lips, finally understanding that his failure little sister had just done something he never could. But to understand why this moment was so sweet, we need to go back 6 years, back to when I was 18, desperate and completely alone. If you've ever been the underestimated one, the overlooked one, the one who had to fight for every single thing while watching someone else get it handed to them on a silver platter, then you need to hit that like button right now. Subscribe, turn on notifications, because this is the kind of justice story that'll make your heart sing. Trust me. Now, let's get into it. My name is Maya, and for as long as I can remember, my older brother Derek was the sun in my parents' universe. I was maybe a distant moon on a cloudy night that nobody bothered to look at. Derek was 3 years older than me, charismatic, confident, the kind of guy who could talk his way into or out of anything. My parents worshipped him, literally. Every accomplishment, no matter how small, was treated like he'd just won a Nobel Prize. Got a B+ on a history test? Oh, Derek, we're so proud of you. Made the JV basketball team? My dad bought him a brand new pair of $200 sneakers. Meanwhile, I was pulling straight A's, working part-time at a coffee shop, teaching myself to code in my bedroom at 2 a.m. And I'd get a pat on the head, maybe, if my mom remembered. But I told myself it was fine. I didn't need the validation. I just needed to get through high school, get into a good college, build my own life. That was the plan. Then, senior year happened. I got accepted into a really solid university with a great computer science program. Not Ivy League, but respected. I was thrilled, absolutely over the moon. I ran downstairs, acceptance letter in hand, practically vibrating with excitement. Mom? Dad, I got in! My mother looked up from her phone. My father barely glanced away from the television. That's nice, sweetheart, my mom said, voice flat. That's nice? So, I continued, heart starting to pound. I looked at the financial aid package, and with loans and the scholarship I got, I'd still need about $15,000 a year to cover everything. Room and board, books, fees, all of it. The room went very, very quiet. My father finally looked at me. 15,000? Per year? Yes, Maya, he interrupted using that tone. That disappointed, exhausted tone. We've talked about this. College is an investment. You need to make sure it's going to pay off. Computer science does pay off, I said quickly, desperately. The job market is incredible. Starting salaries are... For who? My mother cut in. She set her phone down, giving me her full attention now, which somehow felt worse than being ignored. Maya, be realistic. You're a girl going into tech. Do you know how competitive that is? How hard it'll be for you to actually get a job? My stomach dropped. I'm good at this. Really good. My teachers say a lot of things, my father said dismissively. Look, if you want to go to college, that's your choice. But you'll need to figure out the money yourself. Loans exist for a reason. I felt something crack inside my chest. But you and Mom both went to college. You always said education was important. It is, my mother said. Which is why we're not going to waste $60,000 on something that might not pan out. You're 18 now, Maya. Time to be an adult. Waste, she said, waste. I stood there, acceptance letter crumpling in my shaking hands, and I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. Instead, I just nodded, smiled, said, "Okay, I understand." And I left the room before they could see me cry. I made it work. I took out loans, maxed out my federal aid, picked up extra shifts at the coffee shop, and enrolled. It was brutal. I was constantly exhausted, constantly stressed about money, constantly watching my bank account drain while I lived on ramen and dollar store pasta. But I was doing it. I was surviving. Then winter break of my sophomore year, I came home for the holidays, and that's when I found out about Derek. I walked into the house, dragging my suitcase, and immediately noticed something was different. There was this energy, excitement. My parents were practically glowing. "Oh, Maya." "Perfect timing," my mother gushed, pulling me into a hug that felt performative. "We have incredible news." Derek strolled in from the kitchen, grinning like the cat who ate the canary. "Hey, little sis, guess who just became an entrepreneur?" My stomach tightened. "What?" "Derek's starting a business," my father announced proudly, clapping Derek on the shoulder. "He's got this brilliant idea, a networking app for young professionals, and we're investing in him." "Investing? You're investing?" I repeated slowly. $100,000, my mother said, beaming. "We refinanced the house to get him the capital he needs. This is going to change everything for him, Maya. For our whole family." The room tilted. $100,000. They refinanced their house for Derek's app idea. That's amazing, I heard myself say, voice hollow. "Congratulations, Derek." "Thanks, sis," he said casually, like this was normal. Like this wasn't the most insane display of favoritism I'd ever witnessed. "I'm really excited. Dad's even going to help me with the business plan." I excused myself, went upstairs, locked myself in my childhood bedroom, and I cried. Not pretty crying, ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that I shoved into my pillow so no one would hear. They had $100,000. $100,000. And they told me education was a waste, that I needed to be an adult and figure it out myself. But for Derek, for his completely untested, probably going to fail app idea, they'd bet their house on him. That night, I made myself a promise. I was going to succeed, not just succeed. I was going to become so successful that they'd regret every single word they'd ever said to me. Every dismissal, every disappointed look, I was going to make them see. I went back to school with a fire in my chest that wouldn't go out. I stopped going home for breaks. Stopped calling unless they called first, which was rare. I threw myself into my studies, into internships, into every networking event and hackathon I could find. Junior year, I landed an internship at a mid-sized tech company. They liked me. More than liked me, they offered me a full-time position before I even graduated. $65,000 a year. In the Midwest where I was living, that was real money. I graduated with honors, started working, lived in a tiny studio apartment, and saved every penny I didn't absolutely need to survive. Derek's app, by the way, failed spectacularly within 18 months. Turns out networking app for young professionals wasn't exactly a revolutionary idea. He burned through about $70,000 before quietly shutting it down and getting a sales job at a car dealership. Did my parents ever mention it? Nope. Did they ever apologize for the double standard? Absolutely not. But here's the thing about working in tech. If you're good, if you're hungry, doors open. I switched companies after 2 years, doubling my salary. Learned everything I could. Started building relationships with people who actually saw my potential. And then, 4 years after graduating, I took the biggest risk of my life. I joined a startup. It was tiny. 6 people in a co-working space, building project management software for remote teams. They offered me equity instead of a huge salary, and everyone I knew told me I was insane to leave a stable 6-figure job for a gamble. But I believed in it. And more than that, I believed in me. We worked 100-hour weeks. I barely slept. I lived on coffee and takeout, and the absolute conviction that this was going to work. And it did. 18 months later, we got acquired by a major tech company for $43 million. My equity payout? Just over $2 million. At 28 years old, I was a millionaire. The first thing I did was pay off my student loans, all of them. In one payment, I sat there staring at the paid-in-full confirmation, and I cried. Again. But this time, they were good tears. The second thing I did, I started thinking about my parents. I hadn't spoken to them in months. They'd called a few times over the years, usually when they needed something, or when my mom wanted to brag about Derek's latest accomplishment. He'd gotten promoted to senior sales associate, which apparently warranted a phone call. They had no idea about my success. I'd never told them about the acquisition, about the payout. As far as they knew, I was still plugging away at my silly little tech job, as my mother had once called it, and I wanted to keep it that way. For now, I hired a private investigator. Yes, really. I wanted to know everything about their financial situation before I made my move. Turns out, things weren't great. That refinance they'd taken out for Derek's failed business, they were drowning in it. The payments were massive, and they were both approaching retirement with not nearly enough saved. They owed approximately $475,000 on the mortgage. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I spent 2 months setting everything up, working with a real estate attorney, arranging the payment, making sure every single detail was perfect. Then, 2 weeks before Christmas, I paid off their entire mortgage. $475,000. One wire transfer. I didn't tell them. Didn't call, just did it. The bank sent them a notification, obviously, but it was vague, just confirming the payoff and that the lien was released. My name wasn't on anything they received. I'd specifically arranged it that way. I wanted to see their faces when they found out. I showed up at their house on Christmas morning. My mother opened the door, and I could see the surprise flash across her face. "Maya, oh my goodness, we didn't know you were coming." "Surprise," I said flatly, stepping inside. The house smelled like cinnamon rolls and coffee. Derek was already there with his fiancée Lauren, both of them looking annoyingly cozy on the couch. "Little sis," Derek called out. "Long time no see. How's the tech world treating you?" "Can't complain," I replied, setting my bag down. We did the whole present opening ritual. My parents gave me a Starbucks gift card, $25. Derek and Lauren got a kitchen appliance set that probably cost $300. The favoritism was still alive and well, I see. Then my mother turned to me. "Did you bring anything, sweetheart?" "Actually, yes," I said, reaching into my bag. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Just one gift. For both of you." I pulled out the envelope, plain, white, completely unremarkable, and I handed it to my father. He opened it slowly, confused, pulled out the paper, started reading. I watched his face drain of color, watched his eyes go wide, watched his hands start to shake. "What?" he whispered. "What is this?" My mother grabbed it from him. "Read it," gasped. "I don't understand," she said, voice trembling. This says the mortgage is paid off. All of it, but we didn't. We haven't." "I did," I said simply. The room went completely silent. Derek sat forward. "Wait, what?" "I paid off their mortgage," I said, looking directly at him. $475,000. Paid in full. Merry Christmas. My mother's face crumpled. "Maya, how did you... Remember that silly little tech job you mentioned?" I said, and I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice now. Turns out it wasn't so silly. My company got acquired 2 years ago. I made a little money. Well, actually, a lot of money. My father was just staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You're a millionaire?" he breathed. I was. Still am, technically, though I'm a bit lighter now after this little gift, I said, gesturing to the receipt still clutched in my mother's shaking hands. "But here's the thing. This isn't a gift. Not really." My mother's face shifted. Hope, relief. "Sweetheart, this is incredibly generous. We can't possibly..." "This is a receipt," I interrupted. "A record. Proof that I, the daughter you couldn't be bothered to invest $15,000 in, just saved your entire financial future. The same future you risked for Derek's app that failed before it even really started." Derek's face went red. "Maya, that's not fair." "Fair?" I laughed, sharp and bitter. "You want to talk about fair? You got $100,000 handed to you for a business idea you came up with over a weekend. I got told education was a waste, and that I needed to take out loans and be an adult. We were trying to teach you independence. my father said weakly. No, I shot back. You were playing favorites. You've always played favorites. And honestly, I'm grateful now, because struggling made me stronger. It made me hungry. It made me the kind of person who could earn this kind of money and have the absolute pleasure of watching your faces right now. My mother was crying, actual tears streaming down her face. Maya, please, we didn't mean... Yes, you did, I said quietly. You absolutely did. But it's okay, really, because I won. I stood up, grabbed my bag. The house is yours, free and clear, no strings attached. But don't expect anything else from me. No calls on your birthdays. No visits for holidays. You made it very clear where I stood in this family. So consider this my final gift. And my final goodbye. I walked toward the door. Maya, wait! My father called out. Please, we can talk about this! I stopped, turned back. You had 18 years to talk to me like I mattered, I said. Like I was worth something. You chose not to, so no. We're done talking. And I left. I sat in my car for a solid 5 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Then I started laughing. Not a nice laugh. A slightly unhinged, victorious, oh my god, I actually did that laugh. My phone started blowing up within an hour. Text after text, from my mom, my dad, even Derek. Please call us. We need to talk about this. You don't understand the full picture. We always loved you. I blocked all of them. Because here's the thing, I didn't do this for reconciliation. I didn't do this hoping they'd finally see me and apologize, and we'd all hug it out. I did this so they'd have to live with it. Every single day, walking through that paid-off house, they'd remember that I was the one who saved them, not Derek, not their golden child. Me, the disappointment, the one they didn't believe in. And that knowledge, that reality they'd have to sit with for the rest of their lives. That was the real gift. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about succeeding so loudly, so completely, that they can't ignore what they missed, what they dismissed, what they underestimated. My parents will never be able to escape what I did. And honestly, I sleep great at night knowing that. So what do you think? Was I wrong? Was I justified? Drop a comment and let me know, because I am genuinely curious what you all would have done in my situation. And if this story gave you even a fraction of the satisfaction it gave me to live through it, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we've got more revenge stories coming that'll make this one look tame. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.